Block 1. The child and the initial discomfort. The boy did not complain of pain. He reacted like someone who already knew what came next. Before learning how to explain, his body already remembered. He was 6 years old when the first behaviors began to draw attention. There was no relevant medical history. He slept well. He ate normally. He showed no unusual fears, nor any interests outside what was expected for his age. He spoke little, but communicated clearly when necessary. At first glance, nothing indicated any kind of abnormality. What began to trouble the adults was not a strange sentence. It was the way his body reacted in ordinary situations. In open environments, especially where there was continuous movement around him, the boy changed. It was not sudden, it was progressive. His shoulders contracted, as if he were trying to reduce his own physical space. His breathing shortened, not in panic, but in control. His hands searched for support, even when there was nothing to hold on to. When someone came too close, his body stiffened. When he noticed prolonged stares, he turned his face away. He did not cry, he did not ask to be held, he simply adjusted his body as if trying to avoid something he did not know how to name. The mother noticed the pattern in simple situations: crossing a public square, waiting for a traffic light to change, walking through a wider aisle in a supermarket. Always the same signs, always the same kind of silent discomfort. When she asked what was happening, the answer was brief. It's strange. Strange not as something new, but as something too familiar. He did not say he was afraid. He said he did not like being exposed. The word was not part of his everyday vocabulary. It did not come from school. It did not come from home. And yet it appeared in the same contexts every time: open space, movement, people watching. The mother tried to replace the word, offering others. He insisted on the same one. Exposed, he repeated, naturally. On an ordinary afternoon, sitting in the back seat of the car while they waited at a red light, the boy leaned slightly forward. The seatbelt held him. He pulled at it carefully, without urgency, like someone trying to correct a wrong position. "Not like this," he murmured. The mother asked what he meant. He took a few seconds before answering. His gaze stayed fixed ahead, without a defined focus. "Before," he began and stopped. Silence. "Before, the body was very high. Everyone could see." There was no follow-up. There was no explanation. The sentence lingered, displaced from the present time, as if it had been spoken out of place. In the days that followed, the pattern repeated. It did not increase in intensity, but in precision. Always the same scenarios, always the same type of reaction. The body responded before any narrative could form. There was no improvisation, there was no exaggeration. One morning, while walking along a busier street, the boy suddenly stopped. He did not freeze, he simply slowed down until he came to a halt. His feet remained on the ground, his arms stayed close to his body, his breathing shortened, not in panic, but in control. His hands searched for support, even when there was nothing to hold on to. When someone came too close, his body stiffened. When he noticed prolonged stares, he turned his face away. He did not cry, he did not ask to be held, he simply adjusted his body as if trying to avoid something he did not know how to name. The father noticed the pattern in simple situations: crossing a public square, waiting for a traffic light to change, walking through a wider aisle in a supermarket. Always the same signs, always the same kind of silent discomfort. When asked what was happening, the answer was brief. The body doesn't like it. Doesn't like what? He thought for a moment. When it walks like this, he replied, looking around. There was no danger, no cars nearby, no unusual situation, and yet the body reacted as if it were anticipating something. When asked if something bad had happened before, he corrected them naturally. Not here. It was before I was born here. The sentence didn't come as a revelation, it came as an adjustment, as if the adult were asking in the wrong time. At home, in enclosed spaces, the behavior was different. His body relaxed, his breathing regulated. He moved without excessive caution. The difference was too clear to ignore. On an ordinary evening, while playing on the living room floor, the boy suddenly interrupted his movement. The toy fell beside him. His body remained still for a few seconds. His eyes stayed open. There was no fright, only stillness. "The sound didn't match," he said, without anyone having asked anything. The mother approached slowly. "What sound?" He placed a hand on his chest, pressing lightly, as if trying to locate something absent. "A dry sound. It wasn't loud, it was quick." She waited for him to continue. And then the body got heavy. He did not seem confused, just precise. "Heavy like when you get tired?" the mother asked. He shook his head. "A different kind of heavy." There was no further explanation. He went back to playing as if that information had been delivered in full. In the following days, small corrections began to appear in his speech, interrupted sentences, temporal adjustments, as if the boy were trying to align something that did not fit perfectly into his current life. "That was before," he would sometimes say in the middle of a sentence, "before I was small." When asked where before was, he did not answer. "Not here," he repeated. One night, as he was being put to bed, the boy pulled the blanket up to his chest. His body was too still, not tense, still like someone who is alert. "I don't like it when people stare," he said, without opening his eyes. The mother asked why. He took a deep breath before answering. "Because before, when they stared, the body fell." Silence. There was no crying, there was no visible emotion. The sentence came out as a statement of fact. It was at that point that the adults realized that they were not dealing with imagination. The boy was not building stories. He was not inventing characters. He was reacting. His body was anticipating something his mind had not yet organized into words. Cases like this do not appear frequently and do not follow simple explanations. Subscribing to the channel is the only way to follow observational accounts of children who describe memories that do not belong to this life. Block 2. The first impossible memories. The first memories did not emerge as stories. They came as bodily reactions, repeated, specific, difficult to ignore. After the fragmented phrases and prolonged silences, the adults began to notice that certain situations triggered predictable responses. The day did not matter, nor the boy's mood. The same type of environment was enough for the body to react in the same way. Continuous movement, open space, people nearby. It was always the same. On a Saturday morning, during a short walk through the neighborhood, the boy gripped his mother's arm with unusual strength. There was no visible threat. The street was calm. Still, he slowed his pace, as if his body were trying to calculate something. "Not too fast," he said. The mother asked why. He thought for a few seconds, his gaze fixed ahead. "Because when you walk like that," he began, and stopped. Silence. "You don't hear properly." "Hear what?" she asked. He did not answer. He simply released her arm and kept walking, now more slowly, his body rigid. Later, at home, sitting on the living room floor, the boy stacked wooden blocks with excessive care. Each piece was placed deliberately, as if balance mattered more than the toy itself. When one of the blocks fell, producing a dry snap against the floor, his body reacted immediately. His shoulders contracted, his breathing faltered for an instant. "Not like that," he said, almost in a whisper. The mother watched closely. "Like what?" He touched his chest with the tips of his fingers, pressing lightly. "That sound isn't good," he replied. "Why?" "Because before," he began, then corrected himself. "Not here. It was always like this.
The sentence would appear and then be adjusted. The wrong time was corrected effortlessly, as if it were obvious. In the following days, fragments began to surface more frequently. They did not connect. They did not follow a narrative logic. They appeared in the middle of ordinary activities, like comments out of place. When getting into a car parked in an open area, the boy hesitated before sitting down. He looked around, assessing the space. When he finally settled in, he kept his body rigid, his hands resting on his legs. "The body was higher," he said, without anyone asking. The father looked through the rearview mirror. "Higher how?" The boy made a vague upward gesture with his hand, without indicating any measure. "Like this," he replied. Everyone could see. There were no further details, no explanation of who was watching or why. On another occasion, while watching a random scene on television with people gathered in an outdoor space, the boy looked away. He did not seem bored, he seemed uncomfortable. "There are too many people," he said. "There aren't any here," the mother replied. He shook his head. "There were there," he corrected. "There where?" He thought. "Where the body was exposed." The word returned each time in the same way, with the same weight. Exposed was not fear, it was a condition. Over time, the adults began to ask fewer direct questions, not out of fear, but because they realized that insisting disrupted the natural flow of his speech. The phrases appeared when they appeared. Forcing them seemed to make them disappear. On a cloudy afternoon, sitting in the back seat of the car while they waited briefly for someone to come down, the boy became too quiet. His gaze was not fixed on anything in particular. His breathing grew shallow. "The sound comes first," he said. "What sound?" the mother asked carefully. "A snap," he replied. "It isn't loud, it's dry." He made a small movement with his mouth as if trying to imitate the sound, but stopped halfway. "Then the body doesn't respond." "To what?" He took a few seconds to answer. "To the legs," he said. "To the hands." The mother waited. "To the breathing." The silence that followed was not uncomfortable. It was dense, as if the information had been delivered whole, even without details. That night, while putting on his pajamas, the boy took longer than usual. He sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the floor. "The body tries to get up," he said suddenly. "Which body?" the mother asked. He corrected himself without hesitation. "The other one." It was the first time he had used that expression so directly. "The other body tries to get up," he repeated, "but it can't." There was no emotion in his voice, no apparent sadness, just a statement of fact. In the days that followed, small descriptions began to align, still in fragmented form. It was not a story, it was a set of sensations that seemed to belong to the same scenario. Constant movement, air rushing past, a light vibration in the body. "There's no way out," he said on one of those occasions. "Out of where?" "From where you're sitting," he replied. "Why?" He made a short motion with his head as if the answer was too obvious to explain. "Because everyone sees." There was also the sensation of absent protection. The boy showed discomfort whenever something seemed fragile or too open. When he saw a toy with one of its sides not properly fitted, he pushed it away. "It doesn't protect," he said. "Protect from what?" He took time to answer. "From what comes fast." At one point, while drawing, he made a long line and abruptly stopped in the middle of the page. He stared at the paper for a few seconds and said, "That was like it." "Like what?" the father asked. He pointed to the interrupted line. It stopped all at once. After that, he remained silent for a few minutes. When he spoke again, he corrected himself. Not everything stopped, only the body. There was a pause. Then it got heavy. These sentences did not accompany clear images. There were no descriptions of faces, names, or identifiable places, only body, sound, and interruption. On a warmer afternoon, while walking through an open space, the boy brought his hand to his head, pressing lightly. "It gets hot here," he said. "It's hot," the mother replied. He shook his head. "Not that kind of hot," he corrected. "It's fast, then it gets cold." The correction always came with unsettling precision. In the middle of an ordinary conversation, while eating, he stopped chewing and said, "That was before I was born." The sentence fell into the room without warning. "Before I was born here," he added after a few seconds. The mother asked if he remembered anything else. He thought. "I was someone else before," he replied, and went back to eating, as if he had said something simple. These statements did not seem extraordinary to him. They were temporal adjustments, contextual corrections, as if he were merely placing each sensation in the correct place. At the end of that day, already in bed, the boy looked at the ceiling and said softly, There was nowhere to hide." "Where?" the mother asked. He took a deep breath. "Where the body was high," he replied. "Where everyone could see." Silence. The memories did not beyond that. Not yet. But the pattern was established. The sensations belonged to a different body, in a different environment, in an earlier time. And little by little, it became clear that those reactions were not complete memories. They were remnants.
Block 3. The world of the previous life. Over time, the sensations stopped appearing in isolation. They began to cluster around a single physical setting. Not as a continuous memory, but as fragments of an environment the body recognized even without naming it. The boy did not describe places, he described conditions. Constant movement, air rushing past, a light vibration beneath the body. "It doesn't stop," he would sometimes say. "It's always moving." When his mother asked what was moving, he did not answer directly. "Us," he corrected. "We move together." The sensation was not of walking, it was of being carried. Sitting in the back seat of the family car on an ordinary afternoon, the boy watched through the window for a few seconds and said, "Here is different." "Different how?" the father asked. He thought before answering. "Here you can get out," he explained. "There you couldn't." The sentence came naturally, without tension. "There where?" the mother pressed. He made a vague gesture with his hand, pointing forward. "Where the body was high and moved like this." He made a short motion with his hand, mimicking something moving continuously. The descriptions began to repeat with small variations, always the same kind of movement, always the same position of the body. "Seated," he said, "always seated." There was no mention of fatigue. The body seemed functional in that environment. The discomfort came from exposure, not from effort. "The people stay close," he commented at another moment. "You can see everyone." "Do they see you?" the mother asked. He nodded. "They see," he replied. "A lot." The word returned carrying a physical meaning. Seeing was not a quick glance, it was continuous attention. One afternoon, while watching a group of people gathered in an open space on television, the boy looked away. "I don't like it when it's like that," he said. "Like what?" the father asked. "Everyone together, and the body has no protection." The idea of absent protection appeared frequently, not as fear, but as a structural condition of the environment. "There was nothing in front," he explained on another day, "nothing closing it." He made a gesture with his hand as if pushing something invisible. Just air. The vibration returned as a constant sensation. "You can feel it in the body," he said. "It trembles a little." "Trembling from cold?" the mother asked.
He shook his head. No, he corrected, trembling from moving. The boy did not show pain when talking about these sensations. On the contrary, the body seemed to function well in that scenario, up to a point. The hands were fine, he commented once. The legs, too. And the head? The father asked. He thought. The head kept looking, always forward. There was also the sensation of constant proximity to other people. They talked close, he said. You can hear everything. What did they talk about? The mother asked. He shook his head. I don't remember, he replied. I just remember the sound. Sound always appeared as a continuous background. Voices, movement, constant human presence. I was never alone, he commented at another moment. Never. When asked whether that place was good or bad, he could not answer. It was normal, he said, until it wasn't anymore. The sentence came without emphasis. On a warmer day, walking down an open street, the boy brought his hand to his forehead. It gets hot here, he said. It's hot, the mother replied. He corrected her. It's not that kind of hot, he explained. It's when the body is moving and it gets like this. The association between movement, sudden heat, and exposure began to align. In a drawing made at school, the boy scribbled a long horizontal shape and placed small dots around it. When his mother asked what it was, he replied, "Where I was." "Is this a street?" she asked. He shook his head. "No," he corrected. "It's where it moves and everyone sees." He pointed to the dots. They stay close. There were no names. There were no clear references. But the environment was beginning to become recognizable through the set of sensations. Continuous movement, body elevated and seated, total exposure, constant presence of people, absence of protection. One night, already in bed, the boy said softly, "The body doesn't choose where it goes." "Goes where?" the mother asked. He took a deep breath before answering. "Forward," he said. "Always forward." There was a long silence. "And then it happens," he added, without explaining. The sentence hung in the air. Up to that point, the world of the previous life was remembered as a specific event. It was remembered as a physical state, a body functioning in an environment that seemed normal until it wasn't anymore. Nothing yet indicated collapse. Nothing yet indicated failure. But the scene was set, and the body seemed to know that something in that continuous movement would not end well.
Block 4. The collapse of the body. The environment does not change. What changes is the body's response within it. The sensations that once appeared separately began to align into a continuous physical sequence. Not as an organized memory, but as something the body recognizes when it starts to malfunction. The boy does not speak of fear. He speaks of failure. "It starts to go wrong," he said once, touching his own chest with his open palm. "Not everything, just here." The mother asked what he meant. He thought before answering. "The body tries to keep going," he explained, "but it takes longer." The idea of delay appeared repeatedly. It was not immediate paralysis. It was a mismatch between intention and response. On an ordinary afternoon, while walking through an open space, the boy suddenly slowed down. He did not trip. He did not slip. He simply decelerated as if something internal had changed the command. "Now it gets heavy," he said. "Heavy like being tired?" the mother asked. He shook his head. "Heavy like it's too big," he corrected. "Hard to move." The sensation of weight was not linked to the environment. It was internal. The body remained seated, elevated, in continuous motion, but it began to respond with delay. "The legs try," he said at another moment, "but they don't do it like before."
He demonstrated by standing up slowly, exaggerating the effort, as if reproducing something familiar. The hands, too, he added. They get weak quickly. The mother watched in silence. There was no apparent pain. There was no drama. Only precision. The head gets hot, the boy said on one of those occasions. It doesn't hurt. It just gets hot all at once. The heat always appeared suddenly, not like a fever, not like sun exposure, something that came from inside and spread quickly. After that, it's hard to think, he added. Not think everything, just keep going. The collapse did not come as a blackout. It came as a progressive failure of simple functions. Sitting at the table once, the boy dropped his utensil in the middle of the meal. He looked at his hand as if testing something. It doesn't respond, he said. It responded now, the mother commented, trying to normalize it. He corrected her immediately. Not like that, he replied. Before, it responded better. The comparison was constant. There was a functional before and a failing now. In a fragmented account, he described the sensation of trying to move while the body stayed in the same place. It wants to get up, he said, but it stays stuck. Stuck to what? The father asked. He thought. To the body itself, he replied. The sentence did not come as a metaphor. It came as a physical statement. Breathing began to appear more clearly in the accounts. The air goes in, he said softly one night, but it doesn't make the body go. Go where? The mother asked. He took a few seconds. Forward, he replied. To continue. The air did not run out immediately. It entered, but it seemed not to fulfill its function. The body remained heavy, slow, delayed. It gets tired quickly, he added, even without trying. The dry sound mentioned earlier reappeared as the starting point of the failure. When he heard a snap coming from somewhere in the house, the boy involuntarily contracted his shoulders. It's like that, he said. After that, the body starts to fail. Fail how? The father asked. He looked down before answering. First, it gets hot, he explained. Then it gets heavy. Then it doesn't respond properly. The sequence always repeated in the same order. In one of those accounts, he brought his hand to his throat. Here, it changes, he said. The air passes, but it gets short. Are you short of breath? The mother asked. He shook his head. It's not missing, he corrected. It just doesn't help. Breathing continued, but it no longer supported the body as before. You can hear people, he added. They talk close. Do you answer them? The father asked. He remained silent for a few seconds. The body tries to, he said finally, but no sound comes out. The idea of interrupted communication appeared there for the first time. The body heard, but did not respond. Commands did not turn into action. You want to move your hand, he explained, but it gets heavy. You want to move your leg, he continued, but it doesn't lift. The boy demonstrated by slowly raising his arm as if reproducing the difficulty. It's like this. It doesn't all fall at once. The progression was clear. The body did not collapse immediately. It failed in parts. On a quiet night, already lying down, the boy turned onto his side with difficulty and said softly, "The body tries to stay awake." "And does it manage?" the mother asked. He shook his head. "No," he replied. "It gets too heavy." There was a long pause before the next sentence. "People are still there," he added. "You can hear them." "What do they do?" the father asked. "They call," he replied, "but the body doesn't answer them." The boy fell silent. His breathing was normal now, but his face seemed distant, as if he were observing something no longer present. Then he began, and stopped. He did not finish the sentence. There was no description of intense pain. There was no panic. There was no struggle. There was only progressive failure. a body trying to keep functioning in an environment that remained the same while responses were lost one by one. There was still no name. There was still no identity spoken. But the collapse was complete. The body no longer responded as before, and something in that continuous movement was about to be interrupted for good.
Block 5. Death and Transition. What comes next does not appear as a complete image. It appears as an interruption. The boy does not describe a single instant. He describes the end of a physical sequence that had already been failing. The environment remains the same. The movement continues. People are still nearby. The body is not. "The sound comes," he said softly. "It's fast." He does not try to imitate it. He doesn't need to. "It's not loud," he added. "It's dry." There was a brief pause, and then the body changes all at once. The change is not gradual like before. It is not delay. It is not weight increasing little by little. It is immediate impact. "It gets hot," he said, bringing his hand to his head. "Here." The heat comes all at once. It does not spread. It does not warn. "The head gets heavy," he continued, "and the body doesn't listen anymore." The mother asked if it hurt. He shook his head. "There's no time," he replied. The body tries to respond one last time, not with strength, with insistence. "It wants to get up," he said. "It wants to talk." He took a deep breath before continuing. But nothing comes out. Breathing changes. The chest still moves, but the effect does not complete. "The air goes in," he said, "but it doesn't help." The voices remain nearby. This appears clearly. "You can hear them," he said. "They talk close." "What do they say?" the mother asked. He thought for a few seconds. "They call," he replied, "but the body doesn't answer." The failure becomes total within a few moments. The hands don't move. The legs don't either. He moved his fingers lightly in the present, as if comparing. "The body gets very heavy," he concluded, "as if it were no longer mine." There was a long pause. "And then," he began. He stopped, breathed once more. "It stops." "Stops what?" the mother asked. He raised his eyes. "Everything stops." There is no darkness, there is no light, there is no symbolic transition. "It cuts," he said. "It becomes silence." He stayed quiet for a few seconds before concluding, with no visible emotion, "I died." The sentence did not come as a shock. It came as a physical statement. After that, there is no described sequence. There is no time. There is no interval. "After," he said a few seconds later, "I woke up small here." He looked around the room, confirming the current space. Another body, this one. The continuity is not explained, it is stated. "My other body ended," he said at another moment, "and I came here." The narrator observes that the description presented by the child corresponds in a precise and unsettling way to a widely documented historical event. A president of the United States struck in public inside a moving car in front of many people without effective protection with a sudden and fatal impact. Dry sound, immediate collapse, abrupt interruption. The name associated with this event appears only here. John F. Kennedy. Nothing in the child's account involves politics, dates, or adult historical knowledge. What remains are bodily sensations compatible with a widely recorded sudden death, described by someone who states, naturally, that this happened before being born here. Accounts like this are usually followed over time because patterns only become visible when observed in sequence. Those who are not yet subscribed can follow the next cases by staying with the channel. If any detail in this account caught your attention, note in the comments the exact point that caused the most discomfort or doubt.